I'm the fucking man. Y'all don't get it, do you? Type of money, everybody acting like they knew you. Go uptown, New York City, bitch. Some Spanish girls love me like I'm out with Buddha.
Drizzy on KC's Corner, man. What's good with you? How's everybody doing, man? KC's Corner, I appreciate you guys tuning in. I don't want to waste too much time with the intro. I'm actually a little upset with the intro because I got special guests on the line today. And, I wanted to give him something, something he could feel because he's representing that Bay Area, representing that 415-510, you know what I'm saying? But my computer was acting up and I wanted Tupac on there, but I couldn't get my Tupac on there, so I had to settle for Drizzy talking about the motto. Whatever. As I've already spent enough time on Drizzy Drake, and like I said, I got the special guests in here. I got my man, we had this discussion before. Me and him on the DMs, we had the discussion. He doesn't think that I should be saying this, but I don't care. If you listen to sports talk radio in the Bay Area, whether it's 680 or 95.7, this is a legend in the game. I got my man Butcher Boy on the line. The pleasure is I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. What's good?
KC, I'm all about it, baby. Tupac, Max Ray. I'm not really feeling the Drake, but I'm ready to rock. I'm more than happy for you to have me on, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, but Drizzy did his thing with the motto. It's a hot song, but it just wasn't what I wanted to go for. But, we'll just chalk that up to the game, man. I'm going to have it ready next time, no doubt about it. What's good with you, man?
Oh, same old. Just enjoying the Warriors, sticking my head with the Niners, and I'm ready for my Giants to trot out those World Series passes this year.
Yeah, that's exactly what's there is to look for maybe on 3rd and King this year. But we'll get into that in a second. Before we start, we're gonna go right into the Lions' den. All right, me and my man Butch, we get along on pretty much 95% of everything. But there's one thing where we just can't see eye to eye. And you know what? I think we do see eye to eye. I just think there's a disconnect there. Harbaugh, Jed York, and the 49ers. Now, let me see. I'm gonna lay out my scenario first. Jed York, he's an idiot. Okay? He's an idiot. He's in over his head. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know how to say no comment. Okay? That's the best thing he can learn in the next 6 months is to learn how to say no comment. Okay? But he doesn't know how to do that. Okay? And he shouldn't have fired Jim Harbaugh. However, get my Stephen A on right there. That's my Stephen A. However, okay, Jim Harbaugh is no angel either. And Jim Harbaugh will make it really tough for you to look past certain things. And while I don't think he should have been fired, like I always say with my Chris Rock line, I don't condone it, but I understand. And I'm just going to leave it at that. And we're going to talk about it. Butch, give me your thoughts. Jim Harbaugh, Jed York, and the 49ers.
You know what? Contrary to all of my tweets and everything, look, have I been super critical of Jed and Trent and them boys in the words of Stephen A. Smith? Yeah, I have, okay? But I do think, legitimately, there can be a case for Harbaugh being fired. The problem with the whole thing was the process.
Yes.
And then the explanation
yes.
that they used to get rid of him. Look, Harbaugh, like you said, he's not an angel, okay? He is not without flaws. All right, did he get too fired up in the fourth quarter? Sometimes that was blind his play calling. Was it ridiculous how they played telephone to get a play out?
Yeah.
Kaepernick in time with in the 30 seconds. Yeah, all of that is legitimate. But the problem is that they basically sabotaged the season before it even started. That's my biggest beef with York and Hall. And not even Balky. At this point, I'm willing to give Balky a pass. Mm-hmm. I am so mad at how Jed has conducted himself. He basically did to us fans. He said, you know what? 2014 doesn't mean anything. As long as I get rid of Jim, it's a win.
Yes.
Now, I love Harbaugh. I'm very biased. I watched him at Stanford resurrect that franchise, that college program. I saw what he did with the Niners. There is a very legitimate argument that can be made that, the Niners missed out on a Super Bowl and all that. But I will just say this. Winning championships is so hard at the professional level that I don't think that certain fans or owners give it the proper amount of perspective. John Madden took 9 years to win a Super Bowl. Couldn't get past the Steelers.
Right.
Bill Cowher, 15 years. That being said, somebody needed to step in there and tell Jed, I I know you two can't stand each other's guts. I know that Jim is probably treating Parag like garbage. He doesn't say hi to Joe and Payroll. But none of that matters. Let's get on the same page and let's win a Super Bowl. And I felt like they cut it so short. That's my biggest issue. They didn't give it the proper amount of time to come to maturation.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with everything you said, 100%. Here's the other thing about Harbaugh. I'm starting to wonder if he's that type of guy. Like I've kind of shooed it away when it was brought about earlier. But is he nothing more than a 5-year guy anywhere he's at?
I'll ask you this, Kenny. That is a very valid question. Is he more Dusty Baker, or Bruce Bochy, to use a baseball analogy? Is he a guy that can come in, change the culture, get you on the brink of winning, like a Marty Schottenheimer? You know where your team's going to be, but he just can't finish the job?
Right.
Or is he just a guy that's had a few coincidental, run-ins with ownership? I think that's a very valid question. I really do. And I also would say that they forgot who they were. I will give Jed that. They got away from who they were. The offensive line was banged up. We can talk about all the different, personnel decisions and things like that. But at their core, they did get away from who they were. Now, I would also argue this. They had a devastating injury that I don't think can be overlooked. Navarro Bowman wasn't just the best player on the night. He was arguably the defensive player of the year in the NFL, and I thought it was a crying shame that Luke Kuechly got all the votes, and Navarro didn't even get one vote for defensive player of the year before. And he's basically, we don't know what's going to happen with him.
Right.
And I thought that was such a devastating loss on and off the field that nobody ever brought that up.
Right.
I mean, I really believe that. That's like losing Ray Lewis in his prime. I know everybody looks at Patrick Willis as that guy, but Navarro had eclipsed him.
Yeah.
He really had.
Yeah. Navarro at that point, Navarro Bowman, with all due respect to what J.J. Watt does or Revis or even that some bitch Richard Sherman, Navarro Bowman was the best defense player in the game in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? At that time, I mean he did everything. Like he did everything from coverage to run stop to rushing the passer. He did everything, and he did it all at an A+ level. Now, I agree with you. Losing Navarro Bowman, that was tough. That was tough, and I do think that was something that was overlooked. It was just kind of like, we'll fill in Will Hoyt or Borland, and they did great. They did a really good job, but they're not Navarro Bowman. They're not Navarro Bowman, period.
And look at them on special teams. People forget, and they lost so many. I brought this up to somebody else, and there's only so many spots you can fill from year to year. And I felt like they lost Blake Costanzo the first year, and then Spillman stepped up on special teams. But you always had Bowman. Bowman played special teams. Deshaun Colson also played special teams. I didn't think Deshaun was worth the $40 million or whatever he got from the Buccaneers, and obviously he got released. So Balky did hit that one right. But you're missing all of these fringe players, and eventually it adds up to you.
Right.
They lost Lonnie Walker. Say what you want about Vernon Davis. Lonnie Walker got open and made plays.
Yes.
Was he a superstar? No.
Yes.
But he was that perfect role guy who just made plays. And again, you lose these guys, and eventually you look at the roster, and you thought you were 2 and 3 deep at every position, and you're not. And then you look at the O-line, and they let Goodwin go. No one talks about this. They let Goodwin go for nothing. They brought Kilgore in thinking he would be a suitable replacement, and let's be honest, he looked okay. He looked okay. And Marcus Martin's 20 years old.
20 years old.
He goes in there after Kilgore breaks his leg, and he got pushed around. Okay, and Sean Martin was awful. Alex Boone sat out. He looked awful all year. I'm a big Boone fan, but he lost me with the whole holdout, and then you show up and you're not ready to play.
Right.
And then Iupati never got healthy. And Joe Staley, I know he got a Pro Bowl bid. I didn't think he played Pro Bowl level last year. I think Staley's a better player than that. I've been very critical of him, but he did not play Pro Bowl level last year. No. And the O-line was like the pitching staff for this team. They were so deep, and they were so strong, and there was such great continuity. That was where all of the offense in the field position was being held. And they got away from all of that. And that was the beginning of the end for this team. Yeah,
I feel like last year, I think Jed York, number one, I'm in complete agreement, and I've gone off numerous times about Jed about this. He sabotaged the season, and I think he was the leak to all these stories every week. Every Sunday morning you will wake up to another Jason Lockenfora, Adam Schefter, Jay Glazer report of the locker room. And I think Jed had everything to do with that. And it became too much after a while. It became too much. But even with that, it was just the perfect storm last year of everything going wrong and injuries and just everything. Now, I'll say this. I thought that, and this is where I understand where you and others are talking about when it comes to not being too high on what may happen next year. But I feel like they had an aging team last year. They had a lot of injuries. And I never like to play the if game. I never like to play the if game. But, however, they were a bullshit fumble in the end zone. And I don't know what the hell would happen in week 2 against the Bears from being 10-6. Like that, those two games should have been the other way.
Kenny, don't forget the Arizona
The
game.
Arizona game, they were up, what, 14-0? 14-0 in that game. The other
I
game,
know.
what's the other game that they should have won? I had on my list. The Chargers game. The fucking Chargers game.
Don't start me on the Chargers game. What a brutal. Philip Rivers was slinging it in the second half. What a brutal loss.
Goodness gracious! So you're through all of that nonsense, and it's one thing to reach and be like, oh, if they would have converted this third down in the third quarter, then they would have won. No. The Bears game, the Rams game at home, they should have won. Period. And then the Chargers game, they should have won. Period. And if you want to play the other game, they probably shouldn't have won the Saints game. So that's probably 10-6, 11-5 for a team that had everything go wrong with it. Now, I don't know about this coaching staff at all. That's the big question mark. And Vic Fangio was my security blanket. I really believed Vic Fangio could scheme against anybody. I never had to worry about the defense. He's gone now, and I know there's talent on there, but I'm not sold on Eric Mangini. I don't know what's going on. But I say all that to say they're bringing in newer players. All right, they're bringing in better. I think they've gotten better at every position except for inside linebacker. And I think this team can go anywhere between 6-10 to 11-5. I think the talent is there. I think they can. The talent is there. All the intangibles are the question.
Okay, I'm gonna fire back at this. I don't see this team being anywhere near a winning team. Now, I agree with you on this one. The roster, I said in week 7 or 8 last year, and I got blasted on Twitter for this. I said this roster is so overrated and old, and it's just I looked at it compared to Seattle. They're so young and explosive and loaded.
Yes.
I mean, they've got seriously 7 players that are not just Pro Bowlers, all pro level talent in their prime.
Yes.
Okay, the 49ers, Justin Smith, we love him. He's at the end of the railroad track.
Yes.
Frank Gore, we all love him. He's at the end of the railroad track. A lot of guys on that offensive side of the ball. Crabtree is grossly overrated. I think Vernon Davis was so worried about cashing next year's check that he didn't earn this year's check. I don't even know if he loves football.
I think he's finished. I think Vernon is finished. I think he's finished. I've written Vernon off. And I did it in the middle of last year when I saw him jogging around the field last year. I think he's finished.
I'm glad you said that because everybody's dogging me for dogging him. But I said it since day one. Did he have 13 touchdowns? Yeah, no problem. He's the worst hands-catching tight end I've ever seen in my life. He will never catch a ball at its apex with his hands. He's a body catcher, and in the NFL, you have to be a hand catcher. That's just how it is. These guys are blasting you. That's why Gronk at like 40% just makes plays.
Yes.
He's catching the ball with his hands, and he can catch the radius all around his body. But the roster, it can be replaced. And in the NFL, this is one thing no one ever talks about, is 40% of your roster from year to year changes. And that's a fact. That's over the last 15 years. Calvert brings it up all the time. So, yeah, players can be replaced.
Yes.
Leadership, from time to time, yes, can be replaced. Here's what I would say is coaching up the talent we have. We don't know what we have with this coaching staff.
Right.
And the thing that frustrates me is that they said we're going to have a worldwide search, okay? Worldwide search. And yet they take a guy who was on Mike Nolan's staff going back 12 years, 10 years ago. I mean, I would have been sold as a fan on the optimistic view had you just picked anybody outside the box. Let's say Adam Gase. Hey, offensive-minded guy.
Right.
He's a young guy. He's going to grow with Kaepernick. That's one of the things. Everyone thinks that I thought Harbaugh has no faults. Hey, an argument can be made. Kaepernick never regrets from the first year on, and I'm a big Kaepernick fan.
Yes.
But I think we all would agree, in the NFL, there's 2 things you got to have. A great quarterback and a great coach.
Yes.
And if you have those 2 things, you can compete repeat year in and year out with a changing roster. Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady. I mean, the list goes on. So there can be an argument that Harbaugh underachieved and needed to develop the quarterback. The problem is when you bring Chief Chris in as the offensive coordinator, who was the quarterback coach of Kaepernick while he regressed, that leaves me scratching my head. And I'm just, I don't know where this team goes next year. And this is the question I pose to everyone who's optimistic about Tom Stewart. And I'll ask you, Kenny.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think him and his staff at halftime will out-game plan Jeff Fisher, Bruce Arians, and Pete Carroll's staff? I don't see that happening until I'm proven otherwise.
That is 100% fair. That is 100% fair. Talking about Tom Sula, like I said, there's so many question marks. I don't know. I've never seen Tom Sula aside from that one game when he replaced Singletary. I've never seen him game plan. I've never seen him adjust. So I don't know. I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to be hopeful. I will fully admit that what I'm saying is 100% optimism. It's not based on any facts or anything. I'm going to hope. The thing that I do like about Tom Sula, and from what I'm hearing, and if he can do this, I respect it. He sounds like the type of guy so far that he's going to come in without an ego. And what I mean by that is if he really believes Eric Mangini is best for defensive coordinator, he's not going to step on his toes. He's going to let Eric do his job. He's going to let the linebacker coach do his job. He's going to let the quarterback coach do his job. Going to let the OC do his job, whatever the case may be. And he's going to stick to doing what his job is, and that's managing all that and the defensive line. That's where his bread is buttered. And I think to a certain extent, if it's done right, there's something to be said for that. Letting people be great at what they're great at.
Yeah, I mean, look at Carolina last year. Carolina lost a lot of players from the year before. Mike Mitchell, they lost Smith. Okay, now I know they went 7-9 or 6-7-1 or whatever their record was, but that's a good Carolina team. And what's it built around? Kaepernick and an underrated defense.
Yeah.
And now they got Luke Keaton in his prime, but I would argue I'll take Lynch and Aldon Smith and whatever else we've got out there, and Eric Reed and whatnot. And I'll say that, the Niners could be really, really good again next year. But the key is this. You gotta find a way to unlock Kaepernick.
Yes.
You gotta just let himself loose from week one. He cannot hold himself back.
Right.
He needs to run with reckless abandon from week one on, and they need to find a guy who can play opposite Anquan Bolden, who's tough, who can get off the line off Patrick Peterson and Richard Sherman. We need regardless, stretch the field. No, we need an eraser, a guy that can make a play when Cap underthrows the ball, when Cap overthrows the ball.
Yeah.
He's not going to throw perfect passes like Tom Brady. We all know that.
Right.
Not as accurate as we want him to be. But he does take chances deep, and I need a big body dude who's going to go up and have the swagger to fight for balls with Cam Chancellor.
Yes.
I mean, let's be honest, they don't have that guy yet.
No.
I like Torrey Smith, but is he going to go up against Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor? I don't know.
Where are you on everybody, the Twitter, the 49ers Twitter is really big on them going to get DGB, Dorial Green Beckham. Do you think that's that type of guy?
I've been clamoring for, I'm a wide receiver guy. I know a lot of guys say, you can win Super Bowls without wide receivers. Yeah, you could. But the missing link on this team over the last few years has been a dynamic playmaker on the outside. And I hear people go, Vernon Davis. Vernon is a play action, running a straight line deep guy. He's not a go up and get it at its apex wide receiver. I wanted Mike Evans so bad last year. We had about 14 picks. I wanted to trade up. I wanted to go get that guy. I saw him with Manziel. I said, this guy makes Manziel. I did. Right. And I want that big 6'4", 6'5" guy. You don't have to be a speed breaker in the NFL. You got to be a big, physical dude who can go over the top, go over the middle, fight for balls in the air. That's the kind of guy I want. I would love DGB. From everything I've seen, I would love it. Now, here's the catch-22. You got to win with class. I don't know. I don't know if that necessarily works.
I think Trent Baalke told Jed to go to hell with that winning with class stuff. Like we're going to win. We're going to win football games. Okay, period.
Well, hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Oh.
I mean, look, the best wide receiver this team has had since Terrell Owens left the 2003 has been Anquan Bolden.
Yes.
And we all love Anquan. Anquan
Yes.
is just, to me, he's the first ballot Hall of Famer. I know a lot of people roll their eyes about that. He's as tough of a competitor as I've ever seen from his NFC West days with the Cardinals back in the day, of Baltimore. I mean, this guy is a gritty football player. You know what you're going to get. But he's 35, 36.
Yeah, man.
You need somebody to go on the opposite side of him to be a number one. I need an apex predator to bring up WWE terms. I need to do walk the block who's jogging back to Kaepernick like throw me the ball. Here's what I ask you, Kenny. Everybody said Crabtree was very debatable. Oh, Crabtree had a great year that first year with Kaepernick, and he did. Why did he succeed? Because Randy Moss was on the other side of him. Even at 40 years old, Randy commanded a double team.
Yes.
Commanded it.
Yes.
And it opened things up underneath for Vernon, for Crabtree, for all these other guys to have great career years. And they didn't pick up Randy the next year. And Crabtree blew his Achilles out. And they really haven't had a guy command that safety to look over the top and kind of just roll over. Because you saw it with Seattle. We're going to put 9 in the box, and we're going to dare Kaepernick to throw outside the numbers and beat us. And he was inaccurate, and we got killed.
Right. And there's a combination, like you said, of him being inaccurate, and there was just these guys couldn't even create separation. You know what I mean? They just couldn't get open. And that should be, I said it last year, and this should be the same thing this year. Back in 93, after they lost in 92 and 93, it seemed like Eddie D said, look, whatever we need to do to beat the Cowboys, we're going to do it, period. There's nobody else in the league, no disrespect to nobody else, but there's nobody else in the league. What do we have to do to beat the Cowboys? And I felt last year they should have went into that season saying, to hell with everybody else, what do we have to do to beat the Seahawks? And I still think that needs to be. I'm not a believer. I mean, I like Bruce Arians. I'm not a believer in Arizona. St. Louis is, they're making moves or whatever the case may be. I'm not a believer in Jeff Fisher. But Seattle isn't going anywhere. And they need to be, they're so focused right now. It should be like, how do we get open against the Seattle secondary? Whether it's getting an Edelman type, whether it's getting a tight end in the draft, whether it's getting a big receiver. How do we get open and move the ball offensively against Seattle? Because I feel like that's the key to being successful again. That's how you gotta build yourself up right now.
Kenny, you know what? I give Schneider and Pete Carroll credit. They look at their roster every year and they say, okay, this is where we're drafting. What can we do, okay, with these draft picks to get us ball players?
Yes.
Okay? And a couple years ago, they took a 3rd or 4th round pick and they got Marshawn Lynch. Okay? Then they take Earl Thomas in the 1st round. That was a home run. I mean, we all would agree.
Yes.
They get lucky in the 5th and 6th. I don't care who it is. You got to get lucky on those, and they did it.
Yeah.
They hit a home run with Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor. I mean, absolute grand slam.
Yeah.
Then they go out and they trade for Percy Harvin. Did it work? Not really. It was the 32nd pick overall. It didn't matter. They won a Super Bowl.
Right.
Then this year, they take that 1st round pick and they say, we're going to go get Jimmy Graham. And now I'm looking at them and I go, not only do they have the best defense in the NFL, they've got arguably the 2 best weapons in the NFC West. And I thought it was a very shrewd, smart move. And I wish Balky would have taken those 12, 13, 14 picks he's had over the last 2-3 seasons and gone out and got me an impact player in his prime with an offensive threat.
Yes.
I mean, they need a proven commodity. They went out and they got A.J. Jenkins, couldn't even get off the line and Parrish Cox.
Oh,
I mean,
goodness.
it's just frustrating. But not just him. It's Vance. It's for Michael. It's, go right down the laundry list. Quentin Patton, we don't even know what we have there.
Yeah, I'm not sold on Quentin.
It's very frustrating when they don't pick up guys with these draft picks that they have, or they take an ACL torn, left knee guy and they redshirt him for a year. The window is now, or was now, and it shows how fast that window can close on you in the NFL, and you're done.
Yeah.
I don't even know if the window's done yet. We don't know. I mean, I'm praying Kaepernick just explodes this year. I'm still a Kaepernick supporter. I'm listening to people go, Mariota, and all these guys are bad, and I'm going, this is the guy who went into Green Bay and beat Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
This is the guy who went into Atlanta and threw from behind down 17. You put him on the open market, there's 15 teams begging to have him as their quarterback.
Yes.
Begging.
Yes. Cap. I'm a big believer in Cap. I feel like he passes the eye test when it comes to this. When it comes to somebody that obviously has the skills, like he has a skill set unlike no other, in my opinion, with the speed, with the arm strength. You know, what I mean, the accuracy isn't there or whatever, but I mean, whatever. Physically, this guy is there. Another thing about him, I think Cap is extremely competitive. You know what I mean? Extremely competitive. And I think you need that at that position. And now it's turning out you need that in a place like San Francisco. This is turning into a freaking, almost like an East Coast type deal with the 49ers and the way they're dissected. We're going to get into that, Butch. We're going to get into that. I've just made the executive decision. This is going to have to be a two-parter. So we're going to pause right now. And I'm going to come right back with my man Butcher Boy on KC's Corner, a two-parter. We'll be right back.
I'm out in Miami too. Clubbing hard, fucking women, ain't much to do.